All right, welcome to Thursday and Deuteronomy chapters 10 and 11. Uh, Again, Moses here, he's reminding the people about the covenant. Now, remember, a covenant is a relationship in this context between a king and subjects. Often today we think of covenant in the context of marriage, and marriage is also a covenant relationship. It is a relationship that is calling for each party to be ruggedly committed to be with each other, for each other, unto their very best. And marriage is a picture, it's a covenant relationship that is used in the Old Testament to describe the kind of relationship that God is looking to have with his people. But this covenant here that is being talked about in Deuteronomy is not a marriage covenant style covenant, it's a sovereignty covenant. It's between a king and vassals, to use medieval kind of language, which again, we might have the connotation that, well, that's kind of like power imbalance and all this kind of thing. Yeah, it's God and us. The amazing thing is, again, in the ancient world, there is no example, none of, well, in ancient world, it was the covenants were understood between God and the king of that people only, not the subjects, but it was a covenant between God and king, or between a conquering king and a vassal king, never with the people. This is the only ancient covenant, at least that I'm aware of, and all the scholars that I've read are aware of where a God enters into covenant with a whole nation, putting them on equal footing one with another, whether king or merchant or farmer, doesn't matter, because God has made all of us in his image. Wow, big side tangent there, but I just love that. It's amazing what God has revealed to us through the scriptures. So Moses is saying, because of that first generation's rebellion, needed a second set of tablets. And in verses 12 and 13, we see what is asked of Israel. And it's a reflection of the Shema from Deuteronomy chapter 6 that would have been talked about last week. Love the Lord, hear, O Israel, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That line, that phrase, the Shema, is something that Jesus and all faithful Jews of his era would have said every day as part of their kind of creed, the center of what it is that they are and how to be as a people. And so here's this covenant that each party, in this case, God and the people, have obligations to each other. God says, I'm going to be faithful to you, and these are the things that I'm going to give you. And as you're faithful to me, you'll receive them. And if you're not faithful to me, you're going to receive something different. Again, that's the normal language of these sovereignty covenants in the ancient world. And so that kind of gets into chapter 11 and why that language, and sometimes some translations have, there's covenant blessings and covenant curses. And again, that word curse is in that context of a king and a vassal relationship. You're faithful to me as the king, you will be blessed. You're unfaithful to me, you will be cursed. The absence or the opposite of blessing. Notice chapter 10, verse 16. That's where I want to draw your attention. Already here, Moses talks about it's circumcising your hearts. That again, in the Old Testament, if we think that, well, it was just a law-based, performance-based system that God instituted here, and that's what Jesus was freeing us from, that's not a careful reading of the Old Testament. That's an incorrect view. It's always been internal. It's always been an internal allegiance, not external. You do the right things, you perform the right ceremonies. That's one of the big errors Israel got into as a nation. and we'll see that in the prophets as we go forward. It was an internal allegiance, an internal transformation that God was looking to make as he's remaking us to reflect him as his image bearers, so that we would do that in a clearer and fuller way. God calls the nation to circumcise their hearts. The big issue with the old covenant was not law performance. The big issue, and why a new covenant was always going to be needed, was because the power source to change from the inside out had not been fully given to the nation. Does that mean God was kind of withholding, or God was being mean? No, God made every provision for the nation. Again, it wasn't about their performance. It's his performance. He was calling them to obedience and faithfulness, and as they gave that as they could, it was accepted. But we've been given the Spirit of Jesus. That's the Pentecost that the prophets were looking forward to, going like Ezekiel, I'm going to give you a new heart, a new spirit. That's what we can enjoy as we are part of the new covenant. And just as a covenant, there's obligations. God says, I'm going to be faithful to you. And we're called to be faithful to Jesus, to be with him, to be for him, to be unto his very best. And it takes a rugged commitment. That's why we need one another. I want to encourage you, maybe start saying the Shema, or better yet, recite each day when you get up, maybe before you go to bed, Jesus' own creed, as one of my favorite scholars, Scott McKnight, would call it, the Great Commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. As we seek to do that, may the Lord bless you, keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. And today, would you know his peace? God bless.